Okay, so good morning and welcome to our allotment forum meeting today. This is, I believe, our 6th allotment forum during the scope of our Resilient Green Spaces project. The project itself is actually starting to come to an end now. It formally finishes at the end of this month, but I'll be talking a little bit more about what the next step is for us. So part of the focus for today's meeting is a bit of a celebration of what some of our sites have achieved. So we've invited all of the different groups that have been successful in applying and securing a grant under our Resilient Green Spaces programme, with the aim of creating new allotments, regenerating old allotments, and securing and making sites more sustainable and accessible. So within the programme, running over the last sort of 18 months, we've supported at least 18 allotment sites, and we will have helped to regenerate over about 250 allotment plots. So just a quick breakdown of those sites. 3 of those sites have been on private land, which has been really good because we want to get more land into community use. 1 site was purchased up in the north, which safeguarded 40 plots. We've had at least 4 sites that have started growing where there was absolutely no growing on that site before. About 4 sites have added allotments as a new feature to community growing sites. And at least 1 of those sites was brought back from being severely overgrown, and we've helped that site to provide lots of materials so they can get the site back into an accessible state. We've helped through our grants to install mains water at some sites, composting toilets, raised beds, paths, polytunnels, tool storage, and lots of water butts in some sites. So yes, I'm hoping today that everybody will be up for sharing a little bit about what they've, if they've been involved in the project. If they haven't been involved in the project, then it would be great to know why you're here and what you're hoping to achieve in the future. So just a quick update from me on, like I said, Resilient Green Spaces. So we're now in the final weeks of RGS. It was a programme that was funded by the Welsh Government Rural Communities Programme. So that was the last bit of European funding. We part through the programme, we created a national allotment development team within Social Farms and Gardens, and that will continue. And we will hope to seek further funding to be able to offer support in the future, or additional support in the future to allotment sites. We will continue to have our community land advisory service run by 2 of my colleagues on the call, Lucy and Katie Trent. They help communities to gain access to land, agree leases and licenses, and also can help with planning permissions. The allotment forum itself, so this meeting will continue on a bi-monthly basis, and we will continue as an informal discussion group. So whilst obviously I've been trying to sort of create a bit of an agenda for these meetings to date, we're going to make sure that that's a safe and open space, so groups can come along, share their experiences, and hopefully link and connect with other like-minded groups. So those allotment forum meetings will be continuing from September onwards. And just a quick reminder that we do have a Facebook group. It hasn't had the uptake that we had hoped it would have, but it is available for use if people would like. So I think I'm going to kick off today. At first, I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Lisa Williams, just to introduce Dawn Davis, who's going to give a little bit of a background to her site. But Lisa's been working with the site. So do you want to say a few words?
Yeah, hi everybody.
Yeah, hi everybody.
Oh, there's an echo.
Oh, there's an echo. Is it?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Um,
I don't know what to do about
I don't know
that.
what to do about that. Try turning your volume down a little bit.
Yeah, that's never happened before.
That,
There we are. Is that better?
yeah.
Yes, good. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. So yeah, I'm just going to introduce Dawn Davis from Garrow Valley Allotments. So it's a site based right up the top of the Garrow Valley, almost as far as you can go. It was previously an allotment site, I think 25 years ago, and there's historical pictures, aerial pictures showing that the plots weren't in place then. I believe it went to a private landowner then, and Dawn's been working really hard to raise the funds to purchase the land back and has managed to do amazing work up there. Brought back into use lots of plots, and yeah, she's had help from one of our field workers, Derek Cashmore, as well, who's very experienced in plot creation, and he's helped them identify any potential issues up there. I think there was some Japanese knotweed that's been dealt with. So yeah, I'm just going to hand over to Dawn now to tell you a bit about the history of the site. I've got some photos here as well. So I'm going to share my screen and go through the photos, which aren't in any particular order. But Dawn, do you want to tell us a bit about the site first? And then when you've done the kind of intro to it, give me the nod and I'll bring some photos up and we can just have a whiz through the photos.
Okay, well, just a little bit more about myself to start with. I always been interested in gardening because my mother and father really, really brilliant gardeners, but I never really got into it until COVID. And, you know, I had the time to start growing, and I started growing in planters in my garden. And then I thought, oh, this is getting impossible now because I wanted to grow more and more and more. I'm sure you can all relate. And so in July 2020, when things started to open up a little bit and we get out a little bit more, I put a post on our local village page and said, does anybody know where there's allotments? And then I had about 18 people say no, but we know we want one too. So I thought, oh, I'll just have a look if there's a little bit of land that we can all use. And then that led to a whole load of work, which I really enjoyed. So in that post as well, somebody said there used to be allotments a couple of streets away from where I live, which I didn't know about. There used to be allotment years ago. And then I had a vague recollection of being taken somewhere where there used to be allotments and pigs when I was about 8. And I thought, yeah, I kind of remember where that was. So we found the plot, and we found the owner because the owner also used to live in our village. And because I knew him, I rang him and I said, would you be interested in selling this land? He'd bought it. He'd removed the allotment owners. Used to be about 40 allotments there. And but he said, and he wanted to build a house there, but he'd been consistently refused planning permission. So he said, yeah, you know, I don't want to do anything with it anymore. And he said, happy to sell it to you. And we had a number of conversations, and he agreed that we could use the site and we could pay him, we could make a delayed payment, which was very, very important. So he gave us about 10 months to raise what the price we agreed at the start was 20,000. So in the meantime, we cut a long story short, we started to cut everything back on the site. And yeah, you know, Lisa came up and Derek came up, and we had lots and lots of advice from Social Farms and Gardens, which was brilliant. And then we started creating the allotments, cutting back the site. It was really overgrown, as you can imagine. It'd been, you know, about 20 years of overgrowth there. And it seemed very quite impossible at the time, but we had a couple of really good people in the village who cut it back. And I set about then raising the funding. So we had to do a community consultation, and we had a lot of really good support from the community. And we still got about, although we only got 24 allotment owners at the moment, we've got about 200 followers on our Facebook page, and people interact and start to interact more with us. And we then spoke to funders, and we had support from the Coalfields Regeneration Trust, because in fact, the site used to have a pit on it, a small coal mine about 100 years ago, and there's some capped, pit heads there, which are not a problem. And then we had £7,000 from the Covid Generation Trust, and we had £23,800 from the National Lottery, who were absolutely brilliant. Both funders were, in fact. Very, what makes a difference to the funders, them speaking to you and giving you advice. And that happened every step of the way. Now, what happened in the meantime then was the seller got some valuations and was told by a local estate agent that it could be worth up to 30,000. And I know, because my daughter's a property developer, that land is selling at the moment at a premium. I don't know why, but it is. So fair play to the owner of the land. I said, well, I'm happy to renegotiate the price. And he then agreed to sell it to us for 23,000 plus his solicitor's fees. So that's what we ended up agreeing. We were able to buy the land. Our deadline to buy the land was January the 31st, and we bought it on January the 29th. So we just about made it. But I never ever doubted we would, because I'd had this brilliant communication with both the funders who were really keen to help. We breathed a sigh of relief when everything went through with the solicitor then. And it's brilliant owning our own land, because we do have the freedom to run it, as we want to, but with respect to the needs of our renters, I suppose. I don't know all the terms that you even in allotment owning at the moment. I'm still learning. So, but it's a very happy place, and there's some people who are trying out allotments, don't like them, but there are some real stalwarts who are volunteering without being asked, building things, and now we're in the process of running pipes to take water from a little stream that we've got there, because water butts don't seem to be enough in this weather now, do they? Even all the water collected in winter, it's all gone. So it's really, really good fun. And I gotta say, Social Farms and Gardens just committing £5,000 to us at the start is what really gave confidence in the other funders as well to take us seriously. And that was really important money as well, because the site was a mess, the entrance was a mess, we had no equipment, we had no storage, so it was really important money for that kind of thing. So the demand for allotments continues to grow, and now we're clearing another piece of land, which is a lot more difficult than the original piece of land, which is difficult enough, and getting more support from Social Farms and Gardens and creating another 8 allotments. So we'll be up to 32 allotments then. And like I said, there's a constant demand. We've always got a waiting list. So we're hoping to be able to do that now, in the next month or so. And then we're going to set about organising 4 events a year. So that's our next goal. So we start involving and offering events to the people in the community that have supported us so far. So that's it.
Shall I run through some photos?
Here.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll see how they come up, and hopefully they'll come up in a good fashion that everyone can see.
Yes, the before photos are rather shocking.
Lisa, we can just see your file explorer at the moment. Have you opened anything yet?
Oh,
no.
Does that come up full size?
No.
Right, let's see. I think what I'll do, if we move on to whatever you've got planned next, Nick, I'll see if I can put all these in a PowerPoint quickly, and then they should run through properly then, and we can come back to them.
Okay, if that's easier, or did you want me to have a look if I can share them onto, or you wanted to put them in an order?
No, there's no particular order to them really. Yeah, you can see if you can share them at your end, but I think they might have to be in a PowerPoint to go through onto full screen.
Are these under site supported? Are they good? There's some photos under there. Is this working?
Yes, that's worked.
Okay. I don't know, Dawn, sorry, whether these are in any particular order or not.
Well, I'll talk through them. That's the entrance, because suddenly there was all these people going back and forth to the allotments. We ended up having just a mud bath at the entrance, and it was getting really miserable. So we had somebody up to move a big metal container that had rusted on site. There's a lot of rubbish removal as well that was funded, and so they said, well, look, we'll take the top of this earth, or we'll take all the mud off and we'll put gravel down. And that is the result. It doesn't look much, but that was like heaven, because literally you had to have a separate pair of boots to walk into the allotment, which was then full of mud by the time, you know, you walk 5 yards. So this was brilliant.
The next one is, we said it's in, sorry if these are not quite full size. That was, I'm assuming that's the site at the beginning, wasn't it? I think these are the before photos.
Yeah, it doesn't even look like allotments. That's right.
Well, so Dawn, did you just sort of put some like hardcore down? What type of material was it?
Yeah, it was quite, you know, chunky gravel.
Right.
But the mud was taken off. That was the important bit.
Yeah, that's something that we are trying to encourage groups to do from a planning perspective, to put some hardcore down rather than do excavation, because once you start excavating and putting membrane down and things like that, they need planning permission. So just a bit of hardcore to get you going.
No membrane, and it's been great. We've had no problems there at all. This
Brilliant.
There was the inner entrance. There are 4 allotments that are council allotments, and the council hasn't charged them for 20 years. So we assume that the council's forgotten they own those allotments. And there are some brilliant allotment owners there. But opposite their allotments, there's been a lot of fly tipping. So we've met with the council, and they're quite happy to give us that land, but they just don't have the resources to get the legal side of things done. So we've spoken to you guys, and you're going to try and see what you can do. All we want is a long-term lease or a license or something, so that we can make sure that we can deal with fly tippers and we can keep our entrance open. We've had people trying to block the entrance, not just with rubbish, you know. So that's what we'd like to do. We've spoken to the existing allotment owners, and you can see they're well-established allotments, and they've been brilliant. And we're now helping them also to access water more easily, because you know, they're in their 80s and 90s. So it's a real pain for them to have to get water. Luckily, one lives really close and he gets it from the house, but he's still got to walk up the hill to take it there.
So would you take over sort of management of that space? And if so, would you ever charge?
Well, we wouldn't charge because they haven't been charged for 20 years, but we would definitely take over looking after them. And if they did want to become full members, then that would be by their choosing. I wouldn't want to impose any charges on them now, because I think that they wouldn't want us to own the land.
Yeah.
So I think for now, it'll just be a flexible arrangement.
I'm guessing this picture's the piece that you started to clear, and then
Yeah, there was a little bit of Japanese knotweed on there. And luckily for us, the Garrow Valley Heritage Railway Group offered to treat the knotweed for us. Because they're obviously treating a lot of knotweed along their railway line. So they do that for us, and they've got a plan. They've given us a plan to do it very efficiently and, you know, very generously.
Is that Transport for Wales?
No, it's a heritage railway, and
Oh.
they've got a lease on the railway line to develop a heritage railway. So they're in the process of now laying that track, relaying all the track. Brilliant volunteers. Okay, you can start seeing, that's kind of the first allotments. That was last year, and they were putting black plastic down during the winter to start preparing the ground for growing. That's developed even more now. So that was like the first allotments developed on our land. Oh, there's our picture for the lottery. You can see the windows there. We had a whole greenhouse built from an old conservatory that somebody picked up for free. It was absolutely brilliant, the greenhouses. And, you know, people using recycled materials. The yellow containers come from our chair works for some chemical company. So he's brilliant. He gets loads of things for free. We just got loads and loads of contacts. There we are. There's his first polytunnel on his site. And what he ended up doing, the site was quite big, and he's got greenhouses at home as well, but he wanted his extra space. And he then ended up not wanting the back end of his allotment. So somebody else has taken over that. And they've built a big wooden building that overlooks the rugby pitch. So we all think we're going to be invited round for beer to watch the rugby at some point, waiting for the invitation.
and then just a final picture. I've got some nice bird pictures as well, but I think this is showing some of your hard work, isn't it?
Well, that was the first picture, actually.
Oh,
This,
wasn't it?
yeah, this was the first pathway that was cut through the allotments.
Right.
So all those bushes and trees, which is just willow, you know, they've gone now. So this is this is still the pathway, but it looks very different now. But all I've been in like 20 years. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Dawn, for giving us an insight into what you've been doing. So, I mean, the remainder of this meeting, so I'm just closing some of the photos. It was really wanting to hear from you, from those people that are on the calls that have been either involved with an allotment site that we have supported through Resilient Green Spaces, through one of our small grants. If you've not had a grant, then just tell us what you're working on, or if you're here in a supporting capacity and are able to support communities, then it would also be great to hear from you. So do I have any willing victims who would like to just say a few words about what they're doing? Or shall I pick on the few people that I know?
I'm happy to say a little bit about what we're doing.
Thank you very much, Norma. That would be great.
Hi, I'm Norma from United Response. Firstly, United Response is a charity across Wales and England that supports people with learning disabilities, autism and mental health needs. We our service in Oakfield, which is in Cwmbran, are working we've managed to get a lease. It's taken us nearly 2 years of actually trying. We've got a lease from Bron Avon Housing Association to lease what was once a former children's play area, and we are turning it into a allotment sensory garden, and also a mini orchard for the people that we support primarily, but also for the community as well. So it's a sort of a joint project between ourselves, the local school, the housing association, the community centre, and various other organisations, including the local food bank, that we've brought together to develop this allotment project. So we haven't actually had any funding through Social Farms and Gardens, although it is a sort of a community partnership project. We've got a great vision. We've got various bits of funding and sponsorship as well. So we are at the very early stages in developing our allotment. So I kind of came hoping to make some contacts if there was any other local allotment groups that we could, or local to Cwmbran, we could potentially link up with. And also hear about, you know, what else is actually going on across, you know, our region, really.
So, I mean, I'll come in with a bit of a signposting for you. Something, whilst our project and the grants are sort of coming to an end at the moment, but we do hope to get future funding. There's a couple of things I wanted to update everybody on. Firstly, Keep Wales Tidy run the Local Places for Nature programme. And I know Steve Roberts, who hopefully will say something later on, I went and did a site visit earlier in the week because his allotment site has been successful in applying and being awarded one of these Keep Wales Tidy Local Places for Nature packages. And the ones that are particularly well suited to allotments are the food growing development packages. And it's a really simple application process. Social Farms and Gardens are involved with all of the food growing development packages that Keep Wales Tidy award. They will come out, supply and support you to build 3 raised beds. So I think you get nearly 30 really lovely oak sleepers to be able to configure into some raised bed, greenhouse, a shed, water butt, compost bin, bench, plus wildflower turf as well. So if yours is a new site, Norma, then it's a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah, we've been awarded a package, so we're, you know, well on the way to you know, sort of putting that in place.
Was that last calendar year?
Well, actually, it was last calendar. It was last calendar year, but we had to tip it over because we had issues around planning, which I didn't realise that actually we could have got a bit more support from Social Farms and Gardens. So we did our own planning applications and things like that. So yes, but we had a bit of a hiatus with the planning application, and so they deferred the package for us, I think, and we applied again this year.
Right, so it will be, you haven't had the site visit yet, or?
We've had the site visits, and we're just waiting for them to come and actually, you know, finalise dates for installation.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, it's really a great package, and I mean, I will put the link in the chat. It has literally just reopened to applications again, so if anybody knows other groups, there's also an opportunity to apply for starter packages, which tend to be even easier to come by, because I think they award about 400 across Wales each year, and you can get a wildlife or a fruit growing starter package as well. So if you have spare space and want to improve the biodiversity on your allotment sites, then it's a really good opportunity. So is there anybody, I mean, thank you so much, Norma, for sharing. Richard, I think I saw you wave your hand. Could I just go to Lisa very quickly first?
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I'm a site secretary for my own allotment site in Pontyclun. Very traditionally run site, had been for many years. It's been there for over 100 years. And we happened to have a spare quarter of a plot come up towards the end of last year, shortly after I took over. And because we've got a primary school next door, we decided to apply for a wildlife starter package from Keep Wales Tidy. So we didn't think they were ready for the full development package. So we just wanted to engage the school initially with a wildlife garden and some raised beds. And it's worked out really well. The children are brought over every Friday. Our chair spends time with them, and he also goes into the school to do some teaching within the school as well. So we've made that connection with the school again, which isn't always an easy thing to do because the teachers are often not given the time or the resources or the knowledge to be able to just go off and do some growing on their own. So there is an option to put a little wildlife package in as well as a starter one on allotment sites.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Lisa. Right, Richard, you have your hand
Can I
up.
just say, Norma,
Oh.
Norma, if you've still got any planning issues, please do get in touch. Be interested to see or hear about what Torvine, is it Torvine Council, what you applied for and what you got permission for. So maybe we can have a chat or email correspondence afterwards.
Happy to, thank you.
Brilliant. Sorry, over to Richard now.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to say we had support and funding to regenerate some of our allotment spaces at Pendina's site in Newtown Palace, and also to build a new allotment spaces there as well. So we've got most of those done, and we've already got people on there growing as well at the moment. But we've got individual allotment holders that come and use the site. I should have said we've already got allotments on site. So we've got a relationship going back over several years with different groups as well. But we've got Tiercoid on site that are using some of the allotment spaces to work with their students delivering a horticultural course. We've got our local college, which also delivers a horticultural course. Pupils there are on site as well, using the site. And we've got Montgomeryshire Wildlife Trust, which do a social prescribing service, provide that on our site, and they're using some of the allotment spaces. So as long with individuals, we've got organisations who are using those allotment spaces to grow and train their pupils, or just get people out for their mental health and well-being into those green spaces as well. We've also, as part of this, we built what we had got funding from this into an Awards for All bid, looking at engaging with the wider community across the Newtown area, and we've been successful in that as well. So we've got funding there for a couple of days a week for a year to reach out to, I suppose, there's the marginalised communities in and around the surrounding area, and engage them in a more deeper way to bring them on site, and that includes people maybe come from sort of more deprived backgrounds, but also we have quite a large refugee community of both Ukrainians and Syrians in Newtown, so it's reaching out to them as well and seeing if we can engage with them more, say in a deeper way than we have done maybe previously, to bring them on site and use some of these new allotment spaces.
That's brilliant, Richard. And thanks for sharing the bit about opening up your site and trying to encourage new people to get involved in growing. I think it's worth mentioning very quickly, I mean, within Community Land Advisory Service, within CLAS, we offer awards to groups that have had new or got onto their site, secured leases and licenses, and then we support them with resilience plans, which are sort of the first step on the ladder towards securing a Community Green Flag award. And part of the core ethos within that award is to make the site more open and welcoming, and that's to encourage wider public access. So that sounds that you're well on the way, that if you haven't already got a Community Green Flag, but I suspect you probably have.
I don't know if we have at the moment, actually. I think it might have lapsed, so we need to reapply, I think, in that case. And we had a few years when we weren't actually on the site because of various issues with buildings. So there's we might have to do that again, actually. But yeah.
Great. Okay, would anybody else like to share where they are on their journey? Or should I invite Steve to say a few words, if that's okay, as I've coaxed him along to this meeting? So, I mean, shall I just introduce Steve very quickly? So it's Steve works on the Gethley Craig allotments in Abertillery in Blaenau Gwent. The site is owned by Blaenau Gwent Council and leased to Abertillery Community Council. And I think a number of years ago, I don't know, probably about 5 years ago, there was only one plot holder, wasn't there, who just got to the point where she gave up and just said that I can't do this on my own. And I'd be quite interested to know how many plots were on the site originally, if you've seen any plans. But yes, you happened to stumble across the site one day, didn't you? And you got to a point in your life where you had a bit more time to do some growing, and you very bravely took on trying to clear and regenerate the entire site.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm Steve Roberts. I work or the chairman of Gethley Craig Allotments, which again is in Blaenau Gwent. If I give you a brief history of what happened, me and my wife used to have our own businesses just prior to the pandemic. We closed the businesses down. We got quite a big garden, so we grew actually a lot of vegetables in the garden. On the back of that, we were looking for allotments. So we looked in the area, and all the allotments, Bishop Street, Hammond Street, completely were taken. But I walk past this Gethley Craig one regularly, and historically it was a community garden which linked to the schools, but it had become overgrown and quite derelict actually. So we finally tracked down that the council owned the ground, and we moved on from there. Initially, me and my wife took on one site, one plot, and we were going to clear the plots and actually bring more people on. But as you know, it was quite an overgrown site, wasn't it? It was very overgrown. Like I said, historically, it was a community garden. So there were actually a lot of structures on site, which you actually couldn't see because it was so overgrown. There's 3 polytunnels were on site. There's a number of structures. There was the schoolroom, there were sheds. It was quite surreal actually, because as we was clearing the site, we were finding tools just stuck in the ground, as if they just gave up and walked off site. It was a bit like Marie Celeste. There was tools everywhere and no one there. One of the problems with that site was lack of water. Historically, adjacent to the site, there was new builds, new houses. There used to be a stream that ran right down through the bottom part of the site from a pond. What they did with the new builds was culvert the stream over. So there was a lot of water on the site. So people either have to catch water or barrel it in. And as you know, the lane to the side of the site is very narrow. You can't park there. If you park there, you block the lane up. It's adjacent to primary school and also a comprehensive school, so it can be quite busy. So one of the first things we did was look, how do we get either water on the site? How do we save water? So we invested in a lot of LBCs, big 1,000-litre water containers, and every structure on the site we basically hanging tanks off. I'll give you an example. I've got 4 tanks on my site which contain 1,000 litres of water. I've emptied 2 of them in the last few weeks, so I've actually got 2 left, which shows you actually how much water it actually takes. We are looking to get all the plots up and running. We're looking to at least buy or get funding or purchase everybody at least 2 LBCs, and also a greenhouse and a shed, so we can actually work forward with that. It's a lot of work. Thanks to the money from Nick and whatever. Initially, we were looking probably 3 to 5 years project to get it done. With the funding, we can actually bring that down to 2 to 3 years. There's still an awful lot of work to be done. One of the main things we'd like to do is improve the access. We'd like to create a hard stand at the front of the gate so you could actually drive a car into the top of the site and not block the road. There's schoolrooms there which used to be used for children. We're in discussion with a couple of councillors to set up well-being groups and whatever. And on the back of that, I'll just tell you what's here. There's 3 polytunnels there. There's an orchard there. There's a pond at the top end of the site that needs an awful lot of work. And it was 10-foot in brambles. So that's the situation at the moment. But thanks to Nicola and the Social Family Gardens, we're actually moving down the road.
I'm just going to share a few of the photos that I took on my first site visit, which I think was in February earlier this year. So you've kind of got two distinct parts to the site, haven't you? You've got sort of a top shelf almost, because it is on quite a steep slope, and then you've got the bottom area. So I think this was a photo sort of looking down from the top into the bottom of the site. And yeah, you can start to see some of the structures and things that were all hidden away by, I mean, you've got a lot of trees on site as well, which makes it quite difficult because you've got to try and work out what they are to be able to manage them effectively. And then this is the fantastic area at the top of the site, which was where you've got your plot, isn't it? That is looking absolutely stunning now. Now we're partway through the growing season. And then show your IBCs, you're becoming a master of connecting these things up. And then at the bottom of the site, so that's the class, well, what is used to be the classroom, isn't it? So I mean, this big tree is now gone. And we're looking, I did a second site visit a couple of weeks ago for looking at installing a local places for nature package, food growing package, which is hopefully going to be down here. So this will once again become a community area. And then that's looking across the bottom of the site. It's changed hugely, actually, even just since these photos, because all of, I mean, the plots down along the fence line now are ready to, pretty much ready to, for you to give out to plot holders. And you've got a good waiting list as well, haven't you? But there's been, I mean, all of these brambles, I think this was after they'd been bashed a couple of times. So yes, a heck of a lot of work that's already gone into it. So thank you very much, Steve, for sharing.
That was very brave of Steve, taking that on.
Absolutely.
Yes, we looked at it. And well, panicked a little bit. Initially, we were just going to take on the top section and just open one or two plots up and then clear them as more people came on. But we had quite a big response. At the moment, we're up to 15 plot holders. We have got a capacity for more, which is on the bank. But as Nikki said, it is quite a large bank there, which needs a bit of work on to sort of tear it up. But yeah, it's been entertaining, and I've actually lost some weight, which is a bonus.
Added bonus.
Well, I will say that you've been very brave. I think you spent pretty much every penny of the grant that we gave you on materials with the full intention of doing pretty much all the work yourself. So I think, Alison, if I passed you an invoice recently, it's giving Steve a little bit of help from a bit of a contractor to come in to, certainly for the step side of things, to make the site a little bit more accessible. But yes, hats off to you. Katie?
Yeah, sorry, Stephen, I just wanted to ask you, so the site, do you represent like the community council, or do you have a separate organisation? Because you said that the community council has leased the site from the local authority. What's that relationship?
Yeah, originally it was British Steel. The British Steel then gave it to Blaenau Gwent Council. Blaenau Gwent Council leased it to the town council, and we're an allotment association, and we lease it off the town council. We've got a 10-year lease at the moment, so which is brand new. So that's the situation at the moment.
I think when Steve approached the community council about it, the community council suddenly realised that they had about 6 allotment sites, didn't they? That they were subleasing off of the town council, or sorry, off of the local authority, but all of those leases had lapsed, and neither the town council or the local authority realised that. So they're all being suddenly this big flurry of work for the town council got created trying to get this to the renegotiation. But what's the length of the lease, Steve, that you've got?
10 years.
10 years. Right. Robin, did I see a hand up?
Yes, you did see a hand up. I'm apologies. Something has happened to my laptop and my mouse isn't working for some reason. I've checked that it's plugged in. That's all by the by. Following on to your remarks about the local authority, I've done a search on the Vale of Glamorgan site for allotments officer, and nothing comes up. If I do a search for allotments, all I get are application routes for an individual to apply for an allotment. What is the local authority, the Borough Council's obligations in terms of the support it provides for allotment sites? Are they obliged to employ an allotments officer? I thought these were kind of mandatory. No.
I don't believe so. No, unfortunately, it's a job role that gets tagged on to a lot of other jobs.
Yes.
So we work very closely with Blaenau Gwent County Borough Council, and Caroline Matthews was hoping to be here this morning. And I think her original role was biodiversity officer within the local authority, and she had the duty of allotments tagged on.
Bolted on, yes.
Yes. So, I mean, it's quite an interesting debate because Welsh Government for the last few years, as I'm sure you'll know from me mentioning this at previous meetings, Welsh Government has made money available to local authorities to improve their statutory allotment provision. And that sort of happened informally for the last couple of years. Actually, Simon Pickering from Welsh Government, from Landscape and Recreation team, was hoping to be here this morning. He said he only had 20 minutes available for the meeting and then struggled to actually get into the meeting. So he sends his apologies, but he wanted to just give everybody an update to say that money is going to local authorities for the next 2 years. And as community run allotments, there's nothing to stop you accessing some of that funding. And actually, I know that Steve, through Caroline Matthews at Blaenau Gwent Council, has managed to access some of that Welsh Government allotment support grant. There's nothing to say that the local authorities can't give that out to community groups, but generally it's to support their statutory provision. However, a lot of the local authorities then went back to Welsh Government and said, we've got nobody to administer it. Can this be revenue money? Can this pay for an allotment officer? Particularly Monmouthshire Council was very, very vocal about that. But they've unfortunately come back and said, no, it's a blanket no, because it is only capital money. And that's what we find a lot, where there's a lot of capital money for investment in infrastructure, but there isn't necessarily the revenue to either offer the project management and or the ongoing support.
That's interesting. If it's capital money, can I apply to the Vale of Glamorgan Council for a capital grant to fund the conditions on, for example, soil analysis or whatever, the conditions that they have placed upon the permission they've given us to develop the site?
Can you, what were the background?
So for example, they require us to do a desktop survey of the history of the site, which may then lead on to soil analyses. They require us to erect a fence around it. They put a number of what you might call capital spending constraints upon us, or conditions.
It doesn't sound like they're making your job easy.
No. It's spoiled. It rains on a different part of their parade, our site.
I think you have been accessing support from Katie and Lucy within
Community
Land Advisory Service. So I
Yeah.
assume, I mean, I don't know whether Katie's available to comment, but I'm assuming you've tried to untangle these various
Well, if we can get with dealing with Lucy, we could get the history of the thing done. So if we can establish what the history of the site is, and I'm pretty sure it's benign, then we'll know just what the size of the task becomes, which is kind of holding us up at the moment. But thanks to Lucy's feedback this morning, I should be able to get some make some progress in that.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Just to say that Robin Lynn, is he still on the call?
Hello.
Oh, there we are. Yes. Has been asking me and about potential consultant that could look into the previous history, the uses of the site. We've got quite a good chap that's based in the north of England but does travel around quite a bit. He did a bit of a sort of contamination assessment desktop study and visited a site up in Blaenau Ffestiniog for us. So I can pass on his details and perhaps with you could coordinate with Robin as well about perhaps doing a site visit when he's down in South Wales next. But yeah, if you want us to get in touch with Ben Crowther, the engineer that does the contamination assessments that we know of, who's quite community minded and not overly expensive, these sorts of things, let us know and we can try and do something, ask him to do some stuff on your behalf. So yeah, there's that resource as well.
Great, thanks.
A real shame because you've been working on this project for a while now, haven't you?
Well, well, yes and no. Yes, I've been working on it for a while, but no, I haven't done very much because I kind of got to get this bit done first. There's a kind of sequence that the planning conditions place upon us, and this is the first sort of hurdle on it. Because if something horrible comes up, the whole thing could go for a ball of chalk, and that would be that. So
yeah,
we are where we are.
It's Robin's planning permission from the Vale Glamorgan Council is well, it could have done with some intervention because they asked you to apply for a change of use, didn't they? Which is allotments is agriculture and it's not development. It doesn't need a change of use. So yeah, that was a bit disappointing. But at the same time, the conditions, I think said to Robin before that the conditions that they've asked for, looking into the contamination, looking into sort of the biodiversity of the site are quite sort of, I suppose, things that you should be thinking about anyway. So
yes, of course. I mean, those aspects of it are kind of obvious and necessary preconditions to doing anything else. So we're fine with that. It's just finding somebody to do it because we had it done. This story goes back 15 years, and we did have a survey done by a company called Milton, Traharn and Davies. If anybody's ever heard of them, hands up. No. And we think they're still around because we asked them to repeat their quote, and they haven't come back to us. So
So can I ask? We had a site in Wrexham, and Wrexham has got industrial heritage, so it was a similar sort of question of the historical use of the site. And because Wrexham has such an issue with industrial heritage and contamination, the local authority actually held a register of contaminated land. Or like of industrial use of land. So I don't know if there's anyone at your local authority that might have access to a similar register. And it's not completely exhaustive, but this piece of land was on it. And we were able to see that a long time in the past it was a coal tip. So there was just no way, it was contaminated with heavy metals. But also there is a company that we used for a cemetery in North Wales where they wanted to plant an orchard, and we needed to see if that was contaminated. So we didn't know if there was lead or, you know, there can be contamination in cemeteries. And that was very reasonably priced. They did soil sampling from various points of the site. You can pay to have just one sample or a series of samples over the whole site, and you send it off. So I don't know if you'd like their contact details.
That would be helpful. I think we're going to finish up going there to someone who does that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That would be great.
I'll send the details of that through, Lucy, to you.
Splendid. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sarah.
No problem.
On the point, I don't know if many people know much about contamination, but we've got a stream. We've found a pond, the bottom of allotments, but it's got like an orange bottom to it. And we're assuming that it's something from the mine workings that used to be there before, or some kind of metal contamination. Has anybody come across that before? Would they have any idea what it is?
Yeah, if it's orange, if it's a stream and it's orange, it could be contamination, but it could just be what's called a chalybite. I can't pronounce this and how to spell it. Chalybite spring. So it's just like there's iron rich soil. That it's a groundwater spring, and where the water is coming from is iron rich, and that gives this orange. Looks like tomato soup almost.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Okay, so it could just be that. So you might be okay.
All right, brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Yes, because if you're needing to take water from the stream, you do want to know what's in it, don't you?
Yeah, well, we've just because we've cut down more, you know, trees and things, bushes. We discovered this, you know, so we want to take water from it, but we weren't sure what was going on with the colour, you know.
Well, again, you could get that tested, and just to be sure, because so I'll send the details of this company to you as well.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, and then you feel safe, don't you? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but we
heavy metals on your crops.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember we visited a site up in mid Wales, and they were taking water from a stream over a period of number of years, and caused a lot of problems on their sort of the cultivation side of things. So yeah, we should always be careful when you're taking water from any water source.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much.
Brilliant.
If you can send me over that contact, I'll definitely get that tested, Lucy. Thanks.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for sharing. And I think we've had some good, useful information exchanges. Were there any other topics or questions that anybody wanted to bring up today? I appreciate everyone sharing. I've noticed that Evelyn's on the call as well. Please feel free to unmute if there is anything you'd like to say, but absolutely no pressure if you're just enjoying sitting back and listening. So are there any other topics that people would like to bring up we've got a little bit of time left in the meeting, but equally it is a beautiful day outside, so I won't keep you against your will. No, all quiet. I will just share. So I've already mentioned that Keep Wales Tidy is back open again for their local places for nature applications, and I've shared the link in the chat. I've mentioned briefly about the Welsh Government allotment support grants going to the local authorities. So it is worth knowing that if you can get onto their work plan for the next couple of years, then there could be some capital money coming your way. And certainly if Robin manages to pass the planning side of things, then it's maybe an opportunity in the future, because I know it was a commitment, certainly through Welsh Government, through the First Minister's manifesto, to support and improve allotment provision across Wales. I will just mention that we do have our allotment toolkit as well. So whilst we aren't able to give out any more grants at the moment, I've just put a link in the chat to our allotment toolkit. So if you are needing any paperwork, support with risk assessments, templates for leases or tenancy agreements, then please check out the links that are on that site. And before I forget, and then I'll invite Lucy and Sarah to speak, but we will be running one final webinar on improving biodiversity on both allotment sites and orchard sites. It's going to be sort of an hour and a half online session, which will obviously be free to attend, and it's likely to either be Wednesday the 12th or Friday the 14th of July. So we haven't quite firmed that up yet, but everybody's on the mailing list, so we'll be sending out links as soon as that booking becomes live. So Lucy? Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, just say bit of a plug for the Community Land Advisory Service Awards that we hold every year in March. We are doing a call out for sites. The Community Management Award that we offer is like a stepping stone to Green Flag. And we're looking for sites over the summer now to come forward, and we'll be inviting nominations very soon, so please do look out for that, or feel free to jot us an email if you haven't heard anything about it. We can provide details.
Thanks, Lucy. And Sarah?
I just wanted to say that I found the soil testing company, and I've put the details in the chat, save faffing about later trying to get messages through to people, and they also offer, what they did last year, you could remind them, a 10% discount code for anybody associated with us. So the discount code is in the chat as well. So Dawn, I know you've seen that. Is it Robin or? Yeah, have you seen that as well? Yeah.
Yeah. Which bit's the?
Right.
I can't see the discount code. Is there a code as such, or is
Yeah.
it?
Oh, I've just replied to Dawn by mistake.
I've just popped it. Yeah, I've just popped it in the chat. It's for members. So if you join as a member, you can access it. There's lots of different discounts for members of Social Farms and Gardens, and it's on there. Thanks, Sarah.
No problem. And the cost for a very simple test is £50 just for one area for 3 heavy metals. So it's quite reasonable. You'll need more than that for a whole lot of the site, because you'll want to test it from various areas. But perhaps the stream testing would be around that sort of price.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I was going to say something else. What was I going to say? Oh, and yes, as Alison alluded to, Social Farms and Gardens membership is free. If you go onto our main UK website, you can sign up, and actually for groups such as Norma, it may be particularly useful. There's some fantastic resources on there, including the community growing resource pack, which has lots of information about hosting community growing, including things like insurance that you always need to be aware of. So, but like I said, it's free to join, and then as Alison said, you are then entitled to some discounts on things such as yeah, I think there's one for polytunnels and things on there. So okay, I think we've reached the end of what we wanted to talk about today, so I'd like to thank everybody for attending. Particular thanks to those that shared, and Dawn, who I invited specifically along to share today, so thank you very much for that. Norma, I've put my email address in the chat, as has Lucy, so please do get in touch, and we'd look forward to hopefully seeing or supporting your site in the future. So thank you very much again, and we'll take care, enjoy the sunshine, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, everyone. Well done. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.